This is Support is Sexy, episode 537, with Kendrick Shope, creator of Sales School and Authentic Selling. Welcome to Support is Sexy. I'm your host, Elaine Fluker, entrepreneur, author, and founder of Chic Rebellion Media. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, I bring you inspiring women entrepreneurs who share their wins and lessons to help you take your business to the next level. Here we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Support is Sexy. I'm so excited to have you here. You know, it just would not be the same without you. And let me know if these sayings sound familiar to you as a woman entrepreneur. I'm terrible at selling. I don't know how to sell. Selling just feels icky to me. I just don't like selling. Sales doesn't really have to be a big part of my business. If any of those statements sound familiar to you, something that you've either said or thought to yourself, I want you to make sure you pay attention to this episode. I have a great conversation with Kendrick Shope, who is the creator of a program called Sales School and her authentic selling process. Now, I admit I am one of those people who would say, I'm not good at sales. I don't know how to sell. In fact, I've stopped saying that about anything I'm not good at so-and-so. I just say, I haven't mastered that yet, which means there's a way to learn it. And when it comes to selling, there's a way to learn how to sell for you as an entrepreneur, as a business person who does want to make money in their business, but also as a woman. And I found the conversation fascinating to talk to Kendrick about how men and women sell differently and what women can use to work for them as a salesperson or a person who is selling in a way that feels good to them, not what you can use. How to sell in a way that really feels good to you. So get ready, pen, pad, be inspired, be encouraged, and get great tips from Kendrick on how to sell authentically and how to feel good about it. It should not feel icky. All right, so now without further ado, Kendrick Shope. So Kendrick, thank you so much for joining me for an episode of Support is Sexy. I'm excited to chat with you.
It is my total pleasure. I am thrilled to be here. I think support is so sexy. So I am honored.
Sexy. Excellent. So our first question, when did you first fall in love with entrepreneurship?
What a great question. I fall in love with entrepreneurship. I don't know. That's a hard question. I don't know that I ever really fell in love with it, if I'm being honest. I think that I love what I do. And I guess entrepreneurship it gives me the tools to be able to do that. But so I love what I do. And I guess maybe that is entrepreneurship. But I think that I never really went to bed at night for a long time saying, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to own a business. I didn't. There are a lot of parts about owning a business that I don't love, which is probably why I think support is so sexy. Mm-hmm. But there are many things that I do love. And so I think I'm more in love with the idea, if this makes sense, of being able to do what I love every day. And entrepreneurship is the tool that allows me to pay for that freedom. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Absolutely. And it's something, thank you for sharing that, because it's something that, I think more of us are talking about it now, especially as women, that there are parts of it that you don't love or that are hard or that take a lot out of you or that, you're not sure about, just all the things, right, that we go through with entrepreneurship and just developing as a human being that sometimes we used to try to keep secret, but now hopefully with support, we're talking about it more.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's an important distinction. Too often I felt like when I was starting out, and I realized this morning I started 8 years ago, which seems crazy to me. But when I started out, that I looked up to all the people who appeared to do everything right all the time and had it all together. And what I now know is, you know what? They didn't always have it all together. And They had a lot of support that allowed them to look like they had it all together. And there are things that are hard and that aren't fun. And there are things that are wonderful and beautiful. And so I think it's super important to talk about.
Do you mind sharing maybe something you can think of that you don't love about entrepreneurship? Because again, I feel like we don't necessarily talk about those things enough.
Yeah. I don't love all of the pressure. And I'm kind of a pressure person. I came from the sales world where you had quota, exceed quota, quota, exceed quota. But I think that especially when you're first starting out and you talk yourself out of getting the support you need, whether it's coaching you need or, virtual assistance that you need or whatever, lots of times we talk ourselves out of that thinking it's not a good investment of our income, when in fact, actually, it probably is, because it's going to save you time and headache. And so I don't love all the hats. There are plenty. I would love to show up on Facebook and on television and write books and just sort of be the face of the business. But because I'm the CEO of the business, like all of us, I have to do all the back end stuff too. So I have to meet with the financial guy. I have to figure out how much money we need to bring in. I have to figure out, how much money we're going to spend on this launch and on the Facebook ads. I have to figure out what the marketing plan is, rather than just being the face of the business. It's doing it all. And so I don't love all the hats that we wear. There are times when I don't even want to make a decision, and it's my business. I'm like, I just want y'all to make it.
Exactly. It's decision fatigue. That's why some people wear the same clothes every day or the same color things. It's just too many decisions. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't love maybe the pressure that comes with doing. When I came from corporate, we had departments for all those different things.
Right.
And then that all ends up being your responsibility as the owner, the CEO, the person in charge. And I don't necessarily love that. I don't love the financial part of it either. I love making money. I don't love sitting down and budgeting and figuring out how much we need to spend on launch, how much we need to spend on Facebook ads. I don't even like meeting with my CFO. I love him. He's wonderful, but I hate meeting with him. There are parts of it I don't like. And not to sound like a Debbie Downer, because there are amazing parts to this. But there are times when I'm flat out tired.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Again, I wanted to ask you, just because, even you may have even helped free people who don't like those same things, but think that they should like it because they're an entrepreneur or because they're the CEO or because they're starting a business. No, there are always going to be parts of the business that you like more, and then other parts that you don't like as much, even if you still have to do them, or as you have a CFO or get the people who do enjoy those things to really kind of steer them, but you'll still be involved. But just, again, to share with people, hey, it looks a lot of different ways for everybody. Everybody doesn't love everything about it.
That's true. And I think that this industry in particular sometimes can do a disservice with the thought that if it doesn't feel amazing, then you're on the wrong path. Or if it feels the slightest bit off, stop. You know what? I've been alive 41 years. I live a pretty amazing life, but there are days when things just don't feel amazing.
Right.
I don't think that it feels like fireworks and roses every day. And I think if you're looking for that, you're going to be let down.
There are days when things just don't feel amazing. That's a good quote, Kendrick. Write that down. Now tell us where you grew up.
I grew up in Sweetwater, Tennessee. It's a tiny little town between Knoxville and Chattanooga, obviously in the South, in the mountains of Tennessee.
What would you say a young Kendrick was like growing up in the mountains of Tennessee?
Dramatic.
Ooh, I like it.
Very dramatic. I wanted to be an actress. I was mad at my parents because we lived in this small little town that nobody ever got out of, and ridiculous. And how was I ever going to be an actress and fulfill my potential if I was in Sweetwater, Tennessee? That was me. I wanted to entertain. I wanted to be on television. I was extremely dramatic. I thought I was going to change the world.
You are, just in a different way, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
How does who you were as a young woman play into how you are today? Because you are in sales, as we'll talk about, or you are an expert, I should say, in sales, as we'll talk about. Do you feel like your love of acting or performance plays into who you are today?
Without a doubt. I think that when I started this business 8 years ago, one of my favorite things to be able to do, and I didn't really start this part of it until 7 years ago, was get on camera. And I really had thought, it was a pretty yucky belief. But at that point in time, I thought, I'll never be on television. I'll never, I'm 30, whatever I was, 38, 36 years old, and that ship has sailed. Little did I know that this business was going to afford me the opportunity to be on national television, to shoot a reality TV show, to do all the things that I dreamed of doing as a kid. And so also just doing interviews and just going live on Facebook really fulfills that love of, it's not necessarily performing, but that love of being in front of the camera. I am so incredibly thankful that I was able to make that leap in that connection.
It really is just sharing, right? Being in front of the camera, sharing information, your experiences, what you're going through. What would you say was the pivotal moment when you did start your business 8 years ago? Because you mentioned to us that you worked in a corporate job and had the departments and all the things that come with the perks of the corporate position. What was it that made you make that switch finally?
Yeah. So this story is one of I have these moments like many of us, these sort of light bulb moments where something happens and all of a sudden the universe, God, whatever may have been like shaking me for years, trying to get me to get it,
Right.
Then I have this light bulb moment where I get it. And that's what happened for me. I was rocking our daughter to sleep. She was 2. I was one of those mamas who rocked. I'm a big nurturer. Not that there's anything wrong with not rocking, but I rocked. And even at 2 years old, I was still rocking. And I used to tell her name's Hallianna. I would say, Hallianna, you can be anything you want to be in this world. All you have to do is believe that it's possible, believe in yourself. Mommy and daddy are here to support you, and we believe in your dreams. And she was 2, so she didn't understand any of that. It just kind of hit me in that moment that one day this baby was going to grow up and turn into a young woman who heard her mom say that over and over and over. And she was going to look at me and say, Mommy, did you want to sell drugs? The legal kind. I was a pharmaceutical salesperson. So,
well, I was about to say, you made a big reveal here, Kendrick.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
No. Did you want to sell pharmaceuticals or the legal kind of drugs for a living? And is that what you always wanted to do? And I was either going to have to look this little girl in the eye and say yes, which was a total lie, or no. Mommy gave up on her dreams, and I wasn't okay with that. So I put her to bed and I burst through our bedroom doors and I said to my husband, get ready, because I want to be the example for our daughter that anything is possible. All she has to do is believe, and this isn't it. And so that was kind of the aha moment that eventually led me here.
What was the first step after that sort of epiphany while rocking your daughter? Not even the first step. What was the next morning like for you? Did you get up, go to work, but have in mind at that point, okay, I have to start planning my transition?
Yeah, so I am very much an action taker. So once I have my mind, I'm good when I have my mind made up, when I know what I want, go. I'm really bad when I don't know or when I'm unsure. And so I went to work. Yeah, I went to work. I had a pharmaceutical sales job. I was good at it. I went to work, but I began researching and reading voraciously about what would the next step be? And I didn't even know this world existed at that point in time. I hired an executive coach because I figured that the move was within the corporate world somewhere at that point. And so my next move was researching and then hiring an executive coach that eventually led me, down a path that led me here.
So when you hired your coach, was it something that your coach led you to say, you should look at starting your own business? Or was it something that after working in your coach, you realized, this isn't it as far as wanting to move up in the business? And I ask that because when people work with a coach, I think sometimes, and I have done this before I learned better, you go into it with some certain expectations of this is what I want to do and I want you to show me how to do this, as opposed to allowing a coach to kind of take you through developing who you are or what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, great question. My executive coach had me read a book called Find or Follow Your Own North Star. I'm sure many of the listeners have heard of it, by Martha Beck. And that book changed my life. Okay. In that moment, I said, this is what I want to do. I want to learn how to do this for people. I want to learn how to be a life coach. And so that was kind of my next step. That was my next step. I had to convince or sell my husband on the idea of me getting trained. It was a large investment, a $6,500 investment on getting trained to be a Martha Beck life coach. And I did that. And as I said, it changed my life. It's one of the best decisions I ever made. However, life coaching was the wrong niche for me. I missed the quota, exceed quota. And I had, over a decade worth of top performing sales experience that was underutilized. But through Martha Beck, I was introduced to other people. It's never a straight path, is it?
That's right.
Other people, other opportunities that eventually led me to create Authentic Selling.
So tell us about Authentic Selling, what it is and what you do to support people through it.
Sure. So Authentic Selling is the sales process that I created. And basically I took A lot of foundations. As a pharmaceutical sales rep, I had to graduate. I graduated from two corporate sales schools, number one in my class. And so you learn a lot of tools, tricks, tactics, verbatims, all kinds of things that help make you a better salesperson. The problem with that, when you transition into the online world or into a niche that is focused primarily on helping people, is that a lot of those tools and tricks and verbatims can feel really pushy. And so I took all of that solid sales knowledge and turned it into a process that allows people to do things in a way that feels like you are helping. You should never feel icky, sleazy, slimy, gross when you're selling. Mm-hmm. You should never feel icky, sleazy, slimy, gross when you're talking to someone about your products or services. You should never feel unsure about what to say. You're the expert. And so authentic selling is just basically the procedure, the sales process that I created for people who aren't in love with selling, who want to do it just in a different way, a way that feels like helping rather than like I have to convince someone or bully someone into a yes.
What is it about selling that makes it, for some of us, feel icky, or for us to have that feeling? Is it what we're selling? Is it the lack of confidence? Is it not understanding selling in the way that you teach it so that it doesn't feel that way? Or could it be a combination of things? Because a lot of entrepreneurs say, I hate selling,
yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's a combination of things. So it really starts kind of back before any of us were born with traveling salesmen. Salesmen got a bad rap back, and they were salesmen. They weren't saleswomen. Back in the 1800s, when traveling salesmen would come through, this is not a history lesson, but would come through town and they'd say, I've got this bottle of elixir that's going to make you 10 feet tall and bulletproof. You're going to feel amazing. You're going to whatever. The townspeople would buy it, and it was alcohol. And so they did feel amazing. And then the next day, the traveling salesman was long gone, and the townspeople felt like death because they were hungover. Mm-hmm. And so that's really the roots of where sales got its bad rap initially. And it was passed down from generation to generation. So part of it is in just what we hear about salespeople. The second part is we've all had a bad sales experience. You know, if you've lived in this earth for any amount of time, you've either sold something you regretted buying, you've bought something you regretted buying, you purchased something that didn't live up to its expectations, you felt bullied. So we've all had that experience, and we don't want to be that person. So I think it's a combination of those two things, along with sometimes people aren't sold on what they're selling. And if you're not sold on what you're selling, it can be really hard to convince, talk to, tell other people why they might consider your product or service.
I think that is a lot for a lot of women I talk to, and even myself sometimes, thinking about it. It's not even, well, you tell me. Sometimes I feel like it's not that I don't believe in the product or the service or whatever I'm selling. It's just that icky feeling is there. So maybe it is that I don't believe in or not confident in it, or confident in my approach. So what do you think in those terms? Of course, obviously without knowing specifics of what I'm referring to, but just in general, do you find with your clients and people you work with, is it the approach that they're taking most of the time? Let's say most of the time.
Most of the time, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So when we talk about those old sales tools that we learn in corporate selling, those are a lot of the same things that are taught in today's world. You read sales books, you watch sales experts, and their advice is great. But the problem is it's a one size fits all approach.
Right.
You have to do it this way. You have to do it this way. The beauty of authentic selling in general is one of the things you learn from day one is a tool called your sales guardrail. Mm-hmm. And basically that tool is if you feel icky, sleazy, slimy, gross when you are engaging in a sales activity, a consult, writing an email, a podcast interview, whatever, stop. We can figure out a better way to do it. So it makes the sales process not one size fits all. Because what may feel gross to you may not feel gross to me. What may feel gross to a listener may not feel gross to another listener. And so it allows the sales process to be flexible, that you become the guiding force, not the process. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Yes. We're putting it too much into the process or the idea even of selling, as opposed to, like you said, what feels right to us as individuals.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you couple that with some good old sales psychology and some good old sales tactics that are proven to work. And all of a sudden, this activity that has felt so uncomfortable for so long for many, many people doesn't. It feels like helping. We were in sales school yesterday. Sales school is our program that launches once a year. And somebody said, after class 1, this already feels more authentic. It feels more like me. And that's the goal, that you actually enjoy having the conversations, that you actually enjoy what you're talking about.
Is Sales School an online course or online program?
It is. Sales School, we launch it once a year. Every July, we launch it. And it's where you're taking through the 6 foundations of authentic selling and plug them into your business very specifically.
Okay, so I'll make sure I
verbal communication. Sorry, to everything.
No, go ahead. Go. No, that's great. Writing copy is another thing too. I'm a writer and I still sales copy. I still feel like there are just pros who know how to do it better than I can, but it still would be great to learn about it. But that's another piece of the selling. Yeah. And by selling, just sharing, really sharing what your product or service, et cetera, is in a way that makes sense.
Let me give you a great little formula for that. So Yay. For anybody watching, listening, a great little formula for sales copy is write it out and then go back and see if it fits into this formula. Or maybe you think about this formula before you write it out. But this is it's called A as in apple, I as in interest, D as in dog, A as in apple, AIDA. I'll tell you what that means. But basically, this is the same formula, if you will, that is used. It's been used for over 100 years by advertising executives all over the world. AIDA, and what we do, or what they do, is A is attention. That's what needs to happen as soon as somebody lands on your sales page. Research shows that you got 8 seconds or less to grab somebody's attention. That first statement needs to grab attention. The next thing is interest, and we do this with a tool I call. Ad executives don't use this tool, but it's a tool I call the Dr. Dre tool. And the Dr. Dre tool is a for those of you who don't know, Dr. Dre is a rapper, and he had a song in 1995 called "Keep Their Heads Ringing." And so we want people's head to be ringing, nodding when they read your copy, right? So we've got attention and then interest. And the way you do interest, you've seen this on sales pages, is do you, have you, are you? Pain point, pain point, pain point. Literally, people's heads are nodding. They're Dr. Dreing as they're reading. So we've got attention, interest, desire. Take them from the land of what's going on, do you, are you, have you, to the land of possibility. Imagine, and then put in there what people want. Imagine, bullet, what people want. And then AIDA, action. What action do you want them to take? Now, there's more that can go into a sales page than that, but those are the key components: attention, interest, desire, action. And if you can fit it in that format, you are well on your way to having copy that converts.
You are going to change some people's businesses with that today, Kendrick. That's fantastic. I'm positive, mine included. I'm going to go back and look at my page and see if it fits into this formula. And I love first of all, I'll never forget now the Dr. Dre.
I know, right?
That's excellent. Totally get it. Needed that visual. That's great. But just thinking about, the format and the components that you want to make sure that you can include. Like you said, it might have other things, but that just gives us a good basis for at least where to start.
Yeah.
Yes.
And again, that's a tried and true process that is used by lots of people, and it works. AIDA, it is the gold standard for writing copy.
Excellent. Now, with authentic selling, I know something else you speak about is how it reveals the distinction between what drives men and what drives women when it comes to selling. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so this is kind of it's kind of something that I started a couple of years ago, and having fun talking about the differences in the way men and women sell, because I learned from lots of men, but let's face it, I'm a woman. And so I sell differently. I have different things that trigger me. I'm not as comfortable as going for a hard close as a man. And that is actually wired in our DNA. So we talk about the biochemical or the physiological reactions that happen in men and women when they're selling. Men are more comfortable pushing, going for a close, really challenging people on their beliefs or on why they think that they should not buy. I'm not comfortable with any of that. So I think a stereotypical way a man sells is using conflict to sell. I had a boss tell me one time, "You're not selling unless you've ever been thrown out of an office." And I literally wanted to go to the corner and vomit because I didn't want to my mama did not teach me to get thrown out of offices. I don't want to get thrown out of offices. If that's what I have to do to sell, that feels gross to me. Yet that's the way he sold, and a lot of men sell. It's pushy, it's aggressive, it's the things that women typically shy away from. So we talk about the distinctions and what goes on physiologically. When a man is selling through confrontation, and there are actually studies where people talk about this, when a man is in confrontation, he has the same biochemicals in his head released as when he is having sex. So oxytocin, serotonin, things like that. In contrast, when a woman is in conflict, those biochemicals are not released. In other words, we can extrapolate. A woman doesn't perform at her maximum when she's in conflict.
We must shut down.
They shut down. That's exactly right. But when a woman is in a group setting or with other women or having conversations with people, those same biochemicals are released: oxytocin, serotonin, norepinephrine, whatever. And so women sell through engagement, through relationships. It's a completely different sell.
It's more nurturing, usually, right? Nurturing the relationship.
Which is wired in our DNA to be more nurturing. It's just, that's the way we are made, to be more nurturing.
And I think even hearing that for a lot of the women listening, and a few good men, I always say, our listeners, we have some men out there.
Absolutely.
But it's good to hear that, just to hear how people sell differently. So whether you're quote unquote male or female, or just your energy is one way or the other, it lets you, hopefully I'm hoping it'll free people from thinking one way or the other is wrong. It's just what feels right for you, would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. And you hit the nail on the head, and thank you for that distinction. Neither one is right or wrong. It's just that the market is flooded with men who sell in a certain way, teaching people how to sell in a certain way. And that works. And you know what? 50 years ago, that's all we had to learn from, because men were the only people in the workplace.
Right.
So when women went to work, they learned to do it the way a man does it. Now we've got room for both ways. There are enough women in the workplace where we can say, you know what? I sell, and I was a top performing sales rep, and I didn't sell like that. No disrespect if that works for you, but I'm going to do it my way. For example, when I first started in pharmaceutical sales, I said to my boss, it's going to take me 6 months to develop relationships with these people. And he said, you don't have 6 months. You need to start closing. And I said, I'll make a deal with you. And I didn't know that this was true, but I prayed at night it was true. Give me 6 months, and I will be the rep that when all other reps are kicked out, I'm not kicked out. I'm still in there selling. That was true because I put the people first, because I put relationships first, because I put engagement first. And so that's all the things we teach to do in authentic selling.
Put those things first before this quote unquote sale.
Yes. People, it's a terrible analogy, but if you went out on a first date, you're very unlikely to marry the person that first night, right? Why would you do that? Well, I don't want to give you my time or my money when I've just met you either. They're two of my most precious resources, time and money. I don't have a lot of extra time for sure. I can't make more of it. I need to believe you and trust you. And those things happen through engagement, through relationships.
What would you say are 3 strategies, which you've kind of given us some tips, certainly on the sales page and some other areas, but what would you say are 3 strategies from authentic selling that you want to share with the women entrepreneurs listening for how they can either get more comfortable with selling or just think of it in a different way?
Yeah. So the first thing is just the mindset shift that we reference. I don't love the word mindset, but it's a mindset shift that we reference. The definition of selling is the exchange of money for a product or service. You have a product. You're going to sell me a beautiful rock, and I'm going to I don't know why I'm showing a visual. I don't know why, because I'm so used to showing a visual, but you sell me a beautiful rock. I'm going to give you money for it. It's the exchange of money for a product or service. There's nothing icky, sleazy, slimy, or gross about that. So anytime you are feeling icky, sleazy, slimy, gross, or like a sales bully, or you don't want to do it because it just doesn't feel comfortable, stop. That's step number 1. Do not push through that. There's some things you need to push through. That's not it. And then, figure out, okay, how can I alter this activity What can I change about it to make it feel less icky, sleazy, slimy, gross? That's step number one. Step number two would be you need to incorporate follow-up into your sales process. 50% of all sales are closed in follow-up communication. 50%.
That's right. The gold is in the follow-up.
Yeah. You will make more money if you follow up, which sounds contradictory to step number one because people are like, but follow-up feels gross. Then let's figure out how to make it so it doesn't, because there are plenty of ways. So number one is don't feel gross, don't feel icky, don't feel slimy. Number two is incorporate follow-up, a way that feels like you are helping, because 50% of all sales are closed in follow-up communication. And then number three is, to answer your specific question, how do they get over some of this? I would say do some education. If it feels gross to you, I don't mean paid education. I mean, there are free resources everywhere. Come over to the Authentic Selling community. Come over to the to our homepage. There are tons of free resources there that will teach you how to engage in selling and make it feel like helping.
Right. Now, going back to follow-up, I'm curious, what is it for people listening? What would you say that follow-up should look like, even if there's not necessarily a template? But is it after you made the initial contact and you're nurturing that relationship, you follow up with what you're offering or what you're selling, et cetera? Or what do you think what do you advise, I should say, the follow-up looks like?
One of the great things about follow-up is people do love templates. It's fantastic. So I have this spreadsheet that is full of follow-ups because it's such an amazing thing to add into your business. And what I would say is there are different types of follow-up. So yes, absolutely. After you've had a conversation with someone, you want to send an initial follow-up that is a post 24-hour follow-up. Let's say you've been on the phone with them talking about working together. You just, insert greeting. Thank you so much for your time today. I so enjoyed learning XYZ about your business. It says a lot about you and the fact that you will be successful because you are willing to get on the call and learn about an opportunity. Here's what we covered in our call. You're the perfect candidate for insert program name, because it will take you from wherever they are, their pain point, to wherever they want to go. That's exactly what it was created to do. Thank you for your time. What questions do you have? I genuinely want to help you make the best decision for you at this time. That's follow-up number one, right there. Then we have follow-up number two if you don't hear back. Well, follow-up number one also could have a link to pay depending on how you close the conversation. So it sort of depends on how you close the conversation. But follow-up number two is, insert greeting. Hey, you crossed my mind today and I was checking in on you to see how you're feeling about insert program name. What questions do you have? I remember that you shared with me on the call, you were looking to number one, number two, number three in your business. That's exactly why we created insert program name, to take you from to. Let me know what questions you have or how you're feeling about the program. I genuinely want to help you make the best decision for you at this time. If they give you an objection, there's a follow-up for that. So, it sort of depends on where the conversation goes, but the point is to do it. And neither one of those everybody's guardrail is different, but neither one of those feels super pushy to me. They're, hey, I'm checking in. You crossed my mind. This is what you said you wanted to do. This is what we do. Let me know how I can be of service and help you make the best decision.
I love that. I love that you said that. Do you have any questions, or let me know any questions you have and how I can help you make the best decision. And the best decision might be that they don't join the program. But Absolutely. This way you're opening the door to say, we can have a conversation about this, not that I'm just trying to sell you on this.
That's exactly right. It is worded that way intentionally because, again, the best decision may be not to work with me. And that's okay. I support that.
Right. Excellent. Now, something that you touched on earlier was the something that you do, and you touched on earlier, is about giving free information or content or offering to people so that they can engage with you in other ways. For example, for me, it's the podcast and other kinds of content, and we all create different things. Some people do Facebook Live videos. So what do you think, though, or what would you advise for people of how much they should give away? Should they be conscious of how much they're giving away and then how much they're selling? Is there a formula for that, either in your program or that you usually advise people, or is that something else too, is just based on what feels good for you?
Yeah, this is a great question. And I think that, for a long time we heard give it all away for free. You can't give away too much for free. I kind of disagree with that. And I say that give it all away for free. I've said it before, but here's what I know. Back when I was, still doing able to take on one-on-one clients, I had a sales call one time and that we spent 30 minutes together, and the person emailed me back a week later and said, "Hey, I filled my entire program off of our 30-minute call." Okay. So I coached myself out of a customer right there. Now, there could be some argument, well, she didn't really need you in the first place if she was able to get what she needed on a 30-minute call, but the call was really only supposed to be 15 minutes and I kept going. So in my opinion, I gave too much away for free. I'm thrilled for her. That was wonderful. It was years ago, but I've never forgotten that.
Right.
So I think that, I think we need to be strategic about our free content. I don't think your free content is ever mass free content. So podcast, actually, I'm not going to say that because that's not true. I can think of an example where that's not true. Let me back up. I think that you need to give it away now. However, I don't think you need to give every step away. I think that there are plenty of ways you can show up and add value and give pieces of the puzzle together. But I am not running a charity. It's a for-profit business. I don't think that you can engage too much. I don't think you can go live too much. I don't think you can podcast too much. I don't think that you can have too many freebies. The whole month of July and August, I'm answering any question anybody has in our Facebook community completely free. I mean, it's free coaching. However, what I'm not going to do is spend 40 minutes answering one question. You'd have to pay me for that, or you'd have to join sales school or whatever. So I think that you have to be strategic. There is this approach, this strategy to free content. And let's say that I'm making this up, but let's say that there are 10 steps to running a business that makes money. Okay, and I'm going to do a webinar or a Facebook Live where we talk about all 10 steps. I'm not going to give you the how-to of every 10 step. I may make you aware of them. I may give you the how-to of one or two, and that's for your benefit, by the way, because I don't want to overwhelm you, because the how-to for all 10 steps is too much and you won't take action. So I may say, here are all 10 steps. Here's how to do the first 2. And to learn how to do the other 8, we teach it over the course of 7 weeks so it doesn't overwhelm you. Or I may say, there are 10 steps to running a business that makes money. I'm going to teach you just about follow-up. And so as a result of this free webinar, free Facebook Live, you're going to learn how to follow up with ease and with whatever. But also, I know as the expert, follow-up doesn't do you really a whole lot of good if you can't get people on the phone. So it leaves the opportunity for me to sell people into a consult package. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. So focusing in on a certain part of what you offer from your complete package and really diving deep on that and letting people know, as you said, there are other parts to this that you can invest in, or if not, if this is all they needed, then great. Like you still are of service to them, right? But if they have, if they want to invest in these other things, right? Mm-hmm.
And a great way to say that, like on a Facebook Live or on a webinar, is some of you got exactly what you needed today. The promise of this call was, I'm making this up, but the promise of this call was to learn how to increase your business by 50% using follow-up. And we taught you the 10 steps to a follow-up that converts. So that's some of you got exactly what you needed. Others of you are looking to supercharge your results, get there faster, or have realized, great, I've got follow-up under control, but now I need some help even getting people on the phone. And so for those of you, that's exactly what we created blah, 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 blah for, to take you from to. So it's okay to frame the sales pitch with some of you got what you needed. We delivered on the promise of the call. Right. For others of you, you want more. And it would be a disservice for me not to tell you how to get more.
Right. And we've created this thing for you if you want more.
If you want more.
I love it. So good, Kendrick. So good. So what would you say now that you've had your business for, it's 8 years? Is it 2008 years? Congratulations. What would you say has been or is the greatest challenge in your business, and how are you overcoming it today?
Yeah, gosh, there's so many challenges. So many challenges. I think that the challenge for me now is kind of the same challenge that it was when I was first starting out. It just looks different. You get to a level of comfort and success, and then there are other things you want to do, other ways you want to grow. So for me now, it's a book, and to take sales school to a larger audience, and so it's how do we fit all that in? There are only so many hours in the day. When I was starting, it was back to how do we get all the things done we need to get our first client, to get our first 10 clients, to get, not our, it was just me. I was a one-woman show, to get my first client, to get our first 10 clients. And so I think it's challenging when you reach a level of success and then you see where you want to take the business in the future, because it's all new, because you have to change some of the things that have already worked for you so well. And so anything new for me is a challenge until I figure it out. And so growth is a constant challenge, but I don't want to stop growing. Does that answer your question?
It does. I was going to ask you, how do you keep yourself from, because you have had so much success, how do you keep yourself from becoming complacent and saying, okay, this is good, this is enough? That's
a great question. That I don't know that I've ever been asked that question. That's a fantastic question. And I'm going to give you super honest answer here. There are times when I become complacent. So I had a manager one time who said complacency is the killer of greatness. And he may have been quoting somebody, but I've never forgotten that. And I have this, I think that there are times maybe in our business when we need to be complacent. I go really, really hard. And so maybe it's turning that dial down just a little bit and being okay with this is what we've created and it's amazing and it allows us to do other things. I also think that one of the ways that I personally work through not staying complacent or not getting bored, because you can, for me, I'm an extrovert. And so I need to find ways to engage. It's one of the reasons we do free coaching. I need to see the difference that the tools are making in people's lives, because it can be really easy to sit here in the office and say, are we even making a difference? Mm-hmm. And that's easy in any stage of your business. Am I talking to crickets? Are we making a difference? Are we whatever? And so I think it depends on what you need personally. A lot of introverts would hate that, want that need to go out and be extroverted and engage. But I also think one of the best things I have ever done, and I can't take credit for it at all, is I have a really great support group. I have a wonderful team. I have a wonderful business colleague who has become a personal friend of mine, probably my best friend, one of my best friends. And when things are just complacent or maybe even not going the way I want it to, it's great to pick up the phone and say, I am mad at the world right now because everything sucks.
Right. Right. But in the moment, it
can feel like that. And that happened to me earlier this year. I was just like, I'm over it all. I just want to be a mama. Mm-hmm. I mean, so we go through those stages, and then, you do what you need to do to pull yourself out of those stages.
Is your business partner someone that you had from very early on in your business, or something that evolved over time?
Yeah, well, my business partner she's a colleague, and she's been there kind of from the beginning, but by complete accident. So her name's Jenny Shee, mm-hmm. and we were in a mastermind together when I was trying to be a life coach. And she said to me, we didn't know each other at all, colleagues at best. Jenny and I are as opposite as day and night. We knew of each other. That was it. But we were in this mastermind. And so she said to me, Kendrick, you're doing the wrong thing. Now, Marie Forleo had told me these exact same words, but I'm pretty hard-headed. You're doing the mm-hmm. wrong thing. You need to be teaching sales. Mm-hmm. And I said to Jenny, okay, Jenny, I've heard this before. I don't know what you mean. Everybody knows what I know. I don't know what to teach, because sales came pretty easily for me, and I didn't realize there was stuff in there people didn't know.
The curse of knowledge.
Yeah. And so Jenny said, I can help with that. So Jenny literally 7 years ago sat down with me over the phone. It was one of our first times we ever really got to know each other. And she just pulled information out of my head. And from that, I created Authentic Selling. Mm. She and I have since become really good friends, and we help each other with business ideas and problems and even personal problems. But So she was there from the beginning, but it wasn't intentional. You never know. I mean, I paid $25,000 or whatever it was dollars for that mastermind with Marie Forleo. It was amazing. But meeting Jenny Shee, which was a complete fluke, changed my life. It changed my business. I'm not sure I would have ever figured it out.
And that's funny. That's the thing that you never know, when people do think about making an investment like the $25,000 or whatever it is, if that might not be the exact thing that helps you, but you never know who's going to be there, what that experience is going to be like. You just, for some reason, obviously you felt pulled to do that.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And I will tell you that just as a result of meeting Jenny, I mean, I've made millions of dollars. Like, it's crazy. That conversation, honey, you're doing the wrong thing. Let me help you pull it out of your head. Changed everything.
And thank you for sharing too, that even though Marie Forleo had told you the same thing, hearing it from Jenny for whatever reason, it's not that, and I get it. Sometimes it's like someone has been telling me this forever. Then this one other person says it either at the right time or the right way or the who knows. And you're like, yes, I have been hearing that. And it sounds right coming from you. Let me think about how to do that.
I'm sure Marie was like, are you kidding me? Right. I told you that, but she didn't say it quite that. I'm pretty literal. Marie said, you're a natural born salesperson. I'll never forget it. What are you doing selling life coaching? And I remember thinking, what am I supposed to do with that?
Right.
Jenny said, quote, sweetheart, you're selling the wrong thing. You're in the wrong business. I need literal.
She like slapped you on your forehead, basically.
Big light bulb moment, just like what we talked about when talking about. It's like, oh, I get it now.
So in closing, Kendrick, if you think over your life and career and you had the chance to thank only one person whose support was critical to you personally or professionally, who would that be and what would you say?
I would have to thank my husband, whose support was both personal and professional. When so to answer your question specifically, what would I say? Thank you, Blake, for believing in me when it was hard to believe in myself. Thank you for not giving up on me when I blew through 6 figures of our savings with this dream of running a business. It's not always been easy. There are times when it was really hard, and I know you wondered if I had lost my ever-loving mind. The role model that we are able to set for our daughter about believing that anything is possible is what started this journey. And because you believed in me, because you didn't give up, because you have supported the dream in so many ways, we now can put her to sleep at night and say, you can go out there and be anything you want to be in this world, just like your mommy did. And for that, I will forever be grateful.
Beautiful. Beautiful, Kendrick. I love that. I know he's going to love hearing that.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll let him hear it. He might have to earn that.
You might have to earn that. Like, there was this one time on a podcast, I said something really beautiful about you.
I did, but you'll have to go find it. That'll be the go dig through and see if you can find it. Treasure hunt.
I love it. Now, tell us the ways that we can support you. You have a program or something coming up soon, right? I know your other just launched in July. But do you have something else?
Yeah, so that's it. So we do sales school once a year. I may try to do some live events next year in 2019, but sales school's once a year. And so it's such a fun experience because every year with sales school, we do what's called the #1 free sales training online the whole month of July. It is about give. And so as soon as sales school ends, we'll start working on what that looks like for next July. It's amazing. I love that part of my business. So, the best way to get involved is tell people, if there's something that resonated with you here, tell them to join the Authentic Selling community. They're going to get free coaching, which is always helpful.
And that they can join anytime.
Anytime. That's free. Facebook. All you got to do is search for Authentic Selling community.
Okay, I'll make sure I link to it. And of course, I'll link to Kendrick's website. Kendrick, thank you so much. This was so much fun and honestly so educational for me. I can't wait to put some of these things into practice and then look out for next July. Who knows? I might be jumping in your group like, hey, remember me?
I would be honored to have you. Thanks for having me. And I have to say, you have the best podcasting voice ever.
Thank you. I've heard this. Okay, see, this is slap in the forehead. I've heard this a few times. I hear you.
I mean, like, seriously, did you practice on it and train or what?
No, it's been knock on wood, glass here, but yeah, no, it's just been a voice, and I've been, once I started getting more confident with it, I guess it got better.
Woman, it's good stuff, right, y'all? Listening? Like, it is good stuff. It's fantastic.
Thank you. If you need any voiceover, let me know.
Okay, that sounds awesome.
Now, before you go, what's a parting piece of advice from you to our listeners about anything?
So, my parting piece of advice would be, I understand how hard it can feel. I understand how hard it is. We talked about every day is not necessarily fireworks and roses, but it is worth it. And so if a hick from the hills of Tennessee can do this, you can do this. It's out there waiting for you. I believe in you. I believe in your idea. I may not know you, but I believe in you. Go do it.
All right. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Kendrick and that you got a lot out of it. A lot of notes, a lot of inspiration, a lot of ideas. She gave some great tactics and strategies for us. To find out more about Kendrick, her programs, everything she's up to, and more ways to get in touch with her and see if you can work with her, I want you to go to supportissexy.com. Go to that search icon at the top and just type in Kendrick. Kendrick. Her show notes page will pop up with links, resources, and again, all the ways to get in touch with her and find out more about her programs and what she's up to. Supportissexy.com and just search Kendrick. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. If you love what you've been hearing on the Support is Sexy podcast, please take some time to leave us a review. I love to get your feedback about this episode or any episodes that you've listened to. It means the world to me. In the meantime, until we chat again, I want you to always remember, support is sexy, and having it all doesn't mean doing it all alone. And I'll talk to you soon. Take care.